over the last 5.5 years, I've had the incredible opportunity to work with thousands of t-shirt, print-on-demand, and apparel sellers. I've seen a ton of them succeed, some of them fail, and I've also been able to identify the mistakes that they've made along the journey to success. In this episode, I'm going to give you 6 mistakes that you need to avoid in your print-on-demand or apparel journey, and I'm also going to give you some solutions that you can take advantage of. My name is Kerry Egler, and welcome to the Print-on-Demand Playbook Podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Print-on-Demand Playbook Podcast. It's Kerry here with Adrian. What is going on?
What is going on, guys? So happy to be here with you, Kerry, as always. So happy to be here with our amazing listeners, as always. Apparently, I can't talk, but yeah, man, I'm good. How are you?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. It is weird. We recorded a lot of episodes like a while ago. We recorded some together and we did some solo, and then everything happened. I know if you're a listener of the podcast, you've heard me talk about on the podcast. I maybe 2 weeks ago at the time of recording this, probably two episodes ago, just talking about my mother-in-law and everything that's happened there. And so Adrian stepped in and helped me kind of cover things for a few weeks there. And so really appreciative to you, Adrian, of just kind of helping me out, get through that. But it's weird because you guys as listeners may have heard episodes with us, but those were recorded a while back. And yeah, so now we're back. We're back. We're back together. So anyways, I just want to tell you I appreciate it and excited to get into the episode today.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you back, man. And I won't say too much, but I can't imagine what you've gone through, and I was more than happy to step in. So happy to be back with you, and I hope everything's kind of, the dust is settling on your end.
Yeah, well, let's get into it. Got a fun episode today. We're going to be talking through just 6 mistakes that we see in print-on-demand sellers. I think that I mention this often, but what's cool for us is not only have we built apparel businesses and print-on-demand businesses ourselves, but we get to work with so many people, and that's really, really awesome. And it's really valuable for us to be able to see what people go through. We get to see the questions they ask. Obviously, we get asked a lot of questions about print-on-demand, different things. We get to see the mistakes that they make, so I've been running shirt school for 5.5 years. And so just getting the opportunity to work with so many people, I've been able to identify kind of mistakes that people make along the way and some solutions. So, today we're going to talk about the mistakes, but also want to just provide some solutions, right? Like what's the right thing to do in these situations if you're thinking about doing some of these things. So if you're ready, Adrian, we can dive into the first mistake. Any thoughts before we jump into the first one?
No, man, let's just jump right into it. This is going to be great. I hope this is really valuable for the listeners.
Yeah, and I would say too, I'm really excited to hear your perspective on some of these. I know sometimes we have really similar thoughts. Sometimes we have different perspectives. So I'm excited to hear some of your advice and some of your perspective on some of these. So
for sure.
Getting into mistake number 1. I thought of all these just kind of really just off the top of my head, just kind of rolling through. Okay, what are some of the common things? And so, man, the first one that came up here is the first one that hits me because it happens so frequently. It's so common. So mistake number 1 is opening a general store or having many niches within one store. I think that there's a lot of reasons for this. And I think one of the reasons is that people have a hard time nailing down a niche and really selecting a niche, selecting one, because they might be passionate about many things, And so sometimes what I see print-on-demand sellers wanting to have 3 or 4 niches in one store, and they have these little categories or something like that. Another thing that I see a little bit less frequently now, I feel like I used to see it more because I think a lot of people kind of taught the strategy of just having a general store, just selling all the things, right? Not just, maybe even if you're using print on demand, you have 50 products in there, and there's kind of all different niches, all different things. And it's basically a general brand with a bunch of product categories as opposed to having a few niches in the store. So I see this pretty frequently. I think that people have a hard time nailing down a niche, but I think the other big reason that I think of is that people think they're going to miss out on an opportunity if they niche down, right? Like I'll miss, my niche is going to be too small, or, I won't get as many customers because I'm focused on this one niche, but I could focus on many and get more customers and more sales. If you're wanting to start up a brand new online t-shirt or print on demand or apparel business, I want to invite you to go watch my free class over at shirtschool.com. I have a program called Shirt School I've had for the last 5.5 years with thousands of students, and we help people like you start, grow, and scale profitable online t-shirt and apparel businesses. And throughout this episode, you might notice a common theme that everything kind of comes back to getting the training and getting the learning that you need to avoid the mistakes and shorten the timeline to the success that you want. So if you're ready to get started and launch that new business, or maybe you have an existing business and you're needing some help getting to that next level, I want to encourage you to go watch my free class over at shirtschool.com. I'll break down my entire system, the Shirt School system, and I think it can help you in where you're wanting to go. So go check out that free class. Back to the podcast. So I've got kind of, my solution here, but I want to hear your thoughts on that. Do you see other reasons for people doing that? And do you see this frequently in your experience?
100%. Yes. 100%. Man, so many people struggle with this. I struggled with this when I first started out because I was like, if I really niche down, I'm leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
And I just want to say for everyone thinking that, and I wish I could speak to my past self. I am speaking to my past self here. Like, trust me, that is backwards thinking when it comes to building a brand. Like, everything gets easier when you get clarity on your niche. And I think a lot of people overthink this. And I think a lot of people aren't entirely, some people just aren't entirely sure what a niche is. So I just want to really briefly define it in a couple words. Simply put, a niche is just a chunk of the population for your products, And generally, the more passionate, then the more likely you are to build the movement, and the more likely you are to build a brand to attract your target audience and create something that they feel like was made for them, something that they love, they want to support you, and they just feel like this is my brand, right?
Yeah.
And it's so much harder to do marketing, to do targeting, to everything when you're not crystal clear on your niche. So I'm 100% in agreement. I think that this is one of the most common issues. I think a lot of people overthink it. But if you are one of those people that thinks you're leaving money on the table by not serving more people and getting more broad, like, please believe us on this one. We've seen thousands of brands, and we've had experiences with our own brands. Like, we've made a lot of these mistakes. And one mistake that I made in the beginning was trying to be too broad, like probably a lot of our listeners. Yeah. So that's what I'll say about that for now.
Yeah,
the riches are in the niches. It's just how it is.
Yeah, the riches are in the niches. The solution here, like what we would recommend, and I think what works the best is one niche inside one store, right? Don't open. That's another thing I see that people like, they're like, well, okay, if it's one niche per store, maybe I'll just open 3 stores. And it's like, that's a whole nother conversation, but one niche per inside one store. And as Adrian said, which I just want to highlight, is having a well-defined niche guides the entire rest of your business. It sets the foundation. And when it comes to marketing, when you have effective marketing, you are speaking your customer's language. Some people define it as like you're talking about what they think about when they're lay their head down at night on their pillow, right? Like, you're inside their head, right? And you can only have that defined marketing that really connects with your customer when you know intimately who your customer is and what their interests are and what, their family dynamics and the issues they're dealing with. Like, and you do that through having a well-defined niche, because it becomes easier to identify exactly who that customer is and what they're interested in, and then speak to that interest. And you can have that just well-defined marketing, right? And when they come to your website, there's no confusion. They're not confused because they don't see all these other niches on there, all these other things that may not be related to them or what things that they're interested in. they come and they see the product and the interest that they're interested in, and it all makes sense. It's a flow, right? And so it makes your marketing more effective. It makes your marketing easier on you. And I always like to mention that, like, you're not competing with the Walmarts, the Amazons, the Targets. Like, these are general stores, and you don't want to be in competition with them because they're multi-billion-dollar businesses, especially when you're small. And I would venture to say 99% of our listeners have businesses that are probably under a million, a couple $1 million and lower, right? And so even if you have a $10 million business, you still probably don't want to compete with a Walmart and Amazon or a Target, right? Which is a big business, but like, you don't want to compete with those brands. And I like to actually use Amazon as an example in some of my presentations, because I think it's such a cool example of being specialized and niching down and kind of focusing on one thing. Because when Amazon started back in the 90s, they didn't start as this general store that we know today. They actually started as a bookstore. They just sold books, right? They were very specialized. And they also started on the internet when the internet was very slow. People weren't buying things on the internet yet, generally. And there wasn't like this huge pool of people on the internet, right? It was a small group of people that even had access to the internet in the mid 90s. And so we think about Amazon, yes, this huge company, but they started very small and very niche down, selling books to people on the internet in the mid 90s. That was very, very niche, but they were able to grow into the huge company that they are today and all the things that they offer. And I think we both, at least I do, we encourage expanding out over time, adding more products, potentially adding, similar niches, or very similar kind of interests, like in the long term process. But when you're starting out, and especially early on in your business, even up to maybe 7 figures and beyond, like, you should be focusing on one niche, and that will guide everything else.
Yeah. And like, I'm just thinking of like the most successful print on demand brands I know from like my own students, and my friends who have built really successful print on demand businesses. And every single one that comes to mind is crystal clear on the niche. Every single one. Because like, this is generally like the recipe, right? For most brands, this is the recipe. If you serve everyone, you serve no one.
Yeah.
And this is work for me, it's work for you, it's work for our students. Like, this is a proven strategy. The general store approach, it's so much more challenging. Like, I promise you, it will be more challenging to go that route. And why would you want that, especially when you're starting out, right? It makes me think of the 1,000 True Fans income model, which I really, really love. And essentially what that states is really all you need is 1,000 people to spend $100 on your business a year to have a 6-figure brand. Now that's revenue. That's 6 figures in revenue, not profit. But still, that's incredible. Who listening doesn't want to make 6 figures in revenue per year on their business, right? But part of that model to get people to spend $100 a year is to keep showing them products that are relevant to them. Like, focus on building a movement, like people that know, like, and trust you, that love your brand, and that in theory, pretty much every single design and product on your website is relevant to them. This is going to make email marketing so much easier, because really the fortune is in the follow-up. Like, we spend money to acquire customers through paid ads many times and to expand our reach. But the real like profit is when you can get those people on making sales for free or on low cost channels like email marketing. And the best way to do that is if they bought one design that sold, that's your best seller, for example, show them your second bestseller in email. They're very likely to be interested in that too, versus trying to email market to them all these random products. And they're like, this is so random, like unsubscribe, right? Like, I just wanted this one item. This is a random brand. They don't feel the same connection. And I feel like it's much harder to build brand loyalty, which brand loyalty will help you create that 1,000 plus true fans.
Yeah, that's great. Let's move on to mistake number 2 that I see a lot. And this is trying to build a professional store instead of a minimum viable product or an MVP, right? Trying to create a store and launch with a store that has all the bells and whistles, that's professionally designed. And I think that this does two things that I don't like, that I think is a mistake. Number one, you have to spend a ton of money to build a store like this, right? Typically, you're going to probably hire a pro designer in a lot of cases. You're going to have to pay for maybe an expensive Shopify theme if you're going that route. And it's going to cost more. There's going to be more costs associated with it. Number two, which is the more important one, is it's going to extend how long it takes you to launch your store, right? It's going to take a lot longer. If you're the one building it, or even you're having a professional build your store, it just takes longer. I'm a big believer in getting your first sales in as quickly as possible. I'm a big believer in getting a quick win when you're starting out. And that's how I do things. Like anything that I'm launching, no matter what it is, whether it's related to t-shirts, not t-shirts, anything else that I'm doing, I want to see that quick win, because for me, I need the quick win to inspire me and to keep me motivated to continue pushing forward, to see more and more success, right? The quick win shows me that there is potentially a great opportunity here. There's demand for the product. People actually want this, right? And so what I encourage is to get that quick win, which I define as your first 5 to 10 sales. Really, your first sale is a huge win, but that first 5 to 10 sales in the door, to get that, all you need is a basic store without all the bells and whistles, so that you can start selling right away and prove the concept of your store, give yourself confidence, and it will show you that, hey, I have something here in the store. I have my first 5 to 10 sales. This niche is great. This store is great. Okay, now I can take a step back and maybe I can improve some of the things on my store to make it convert a little bit better, to make it branded a little bit better. But I recommend when you're first launching that store, don't spend, months and months trying to build out your Shopify store, build out all of the different things, the upsells, complex email marketing back end, all those kind of things. Like, build a basic store that has, maybe 5 to 10 products that you launch with, a few designs, right, on a few different products. I think you should have solid branding in place, but like, it doesn't need to be complex. You don't need to spend a ton of money on a logo, right? You can get a really professional logo for free, $5, $10 at the most, if you really want to go crazy with it. But don't start spending burning all this money and time to build this professional store that doesn't yet have proven sales, right? And you could end up spending all this money and time and then it not working out. And then you're out that money and time. Whereas if you launch with an MVP, and if something doesn't work out, if you don't get those sales, if you can't get that niche going, right, it's easy to pivot. You can shut down, move on, fail fast, move on to the next niche, right? So that's what I recommend as a solution, is launching with an MVP, a basic store, proving the concept, instead of trying to launch with a professional level store.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. I've seen beautiful websites that have never made a single sale that took 6 months to a year to create. And then I've seen super simple stores that are absolutely crushing it. And really what it comes down to is people are not buying your website. They're buying your products. Make the focus on the products. And so many times I see websites and they're so like creative and cool looking, but you almost think you're on like a blog, or you don't really know what you're on. You're like, is this an apparel brand? Like there's all these things going on. There's all these bells and whistles. Like, just focus on the product. Focus on the product. That is what you're selling. Your goal of your website is to get your products in front of your shoppers as soon as possible, and to show them something that really resonates, evokes emotion, relatability, that makes them want to buy from you once. And then hopefully again and again and again, continue remarketing to them, right? And I just want to make one thing clear. Like, a simple website doesn't mean like you don't actually have to do anything. It doesn't mean just like take a template from Shopify and make no changes to it. Like, there are absolutely like little simple strategies that you can apply to your website that are going to increase the likelihood of conversions, because it's very important to build trust on your website. And there are a lot of things that I see, like we both look at thousands of websites. We've seen thousands of websites, and there's a lot of the commonalities are the same, right? People built the simple website, and that's great. But then you like look at the imagery and you're like, oh, it's like blurry and pixelated, and the mock-ups look super fake. They look like cartoons. And these are like common things, like things I see all the time. Sometimes it's difficult to check out. So like easy or simple, building a simple website doesn't mean like you don't have to create it strategically, but you don't have to, you don't need all the bells and whistles that a lot of people think of, because at the end of the day, you're selling products, you're not selling your website. And just because you have a flashy website, if you don't have anything people want to buy because you spent all your time making your website flashy, guess what? They're going to go to that simple website where they do have things they're going to want to buy, because those people focus on creating products that evoke emotion and relatability, and they're going to be the winners. They're going to be ones getting the sales, and they're going to have got a huge head start on you if you're taking months and months and months to launch that website.
Yeah, and one just kind of quick example. I won't call them out by name, but I have a student inside church school that I was talking to this morning. We had a Q&A call. They asked a question, and just for context, this student, has been in the program now for a couple months. For I would say probably a month or two, maybe 2 months, close to 2 months. And their question was, they were debating the name of their store. What should I name my store? I've got these two or three options, or whatever the case was. And it was like, I just keep going back and forth. I'm just, I just can't decide like what sounds better. I wanted to not be rude in my answer, because it's not a bad question. It's just, my response was like, I really want you to get out and start selling like as quickly as possible. And the reality, and I was just telling her, I was like, the reality is the name of your store is not going to make or break your sales. Like, sure, we all want to have a good name, but it's not something we should spend weeks or even months debating that cripples us from actually launching that store and starting to get the sales and have the success. Like all of the names that she had were great. There was nothing wrong with any of the names, right? Maybe one was rhymed a little better or was a little shorter, but like she can make sales with any of those names. And she was crippled by not being able to move forward because she just wasn't sure about the name, And there's a lot of things that can trip us up like that. The logo, the design of our store, people ask about the About Us page. I just can't get the About Us page right, or whatever the case may be. The mock-ups, right? Like, launch before you're ready. Like, go get those first sales. Done is better than perfect. Like it's never going to be perfect. Even if you have that professionally designed store, there's still going to be things that you want to change, that you want to tweak, that you want to do over time, and you can always level up. And so, yeah, that would be my advice. Launch before you're ready. Get out there, take imperfect action. Go for it.
100%. No one cares about your brand name. They don't care. Unless you're selling your brand name on your shirts, they do not care. There's like those very, very rare exception unicorn brands like Spiritual Gangster, where they started with a t-shirt that said Spiritual Gangster and it blew up, and they created the whole brand around that. Those are like the unicorns, but like most people do not care. And I want to give an example of a brand that I really respect, but I can't stand their name. I just want to give this example to our listeners to show you that you could have a pretty ridiculous name and still create a very successful brand. I actually think this brand is so awesome, and I've met the owner, and he's such an incredible guy. And the brand's called Constantly Varied Gear. Constantly Varied. What does that even mean? Like, it sounds like a general store, right? But here's the thing. They're not a general store. They are not a general store. They are hyper focused on gym and fitness, and particularly CrossFit, like hyper focused. But what I think is that they started out with that name a super long time ago. They started building up their brand, and then they found their focus and they went all in. They're a multiple 7-figure brand, probably 8 like plus figures. Like, these guys crush. They absolutely crush. And they've done an incredible job of building a movement. Like, this is a movement-based, mission-based brand, and you can go check them out. They're big. They're awesome. but their name is horrible. And they probably would agree with me. And I'm only using this as an example because I want to double down on the fact that no one really cares about your name. So hopefully people that have been on the fence and they hear this, I hope that this is the moment that they're like, all right, in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to come up with my name and I'm going to go and I'm just going to roll with it. Like I'm moving on, you know?
Yeah. That's good. Let's hit mistake number 3. It's good. You actually brought up an example of this. So we could talk through mistake number 3 that I see: slapping your logo on all your shirts or products in general. Just like, hey, my design is my logo. And I see this, man, I see this way more frequently than I would care to admit from people where, I think they're trying to create like that next Gucci Supreme type thing. But the reality is, like, when you're starting out, when you have a new brand, nobody like trusts your brand yet. Nobody knows your brand yet. And it's going to be really hard to get attention by just slapping your logo on things. I think that there might be an exception here, kind of what you just talked about, like with Spiritual Gangster. Spiritual Gangster, obviously the name of it is like there's a message behind that, right? And so
right.
And they've got a message that I think that they're promoting along with that. And so that's something people can latch on to that was very unique, that, I think people, can kind of latch onto that message. I think what I'm talking about, because I think that name Spiritual Gangster is like a niche focused design in itself.
It's
right?
an identifier. It's
Yeah,
like, oh,
sure.
this like sums me up. Like that's what I like. I wear Spiritual Gangster because I feel like it like is, I identify with that. But I wouldn't wear a brand that said Poochie. Maybe like, if I'd never heard of it, let's say Gucci didn't exist and someone tried to create this brand by putting Poochie on everything, I'd be like, what does that even mean? Like, at least Spiritual Gangster, I know what that means. And I think it's funny and I think it's relatable and it evokes emotion. And, I feel like I connect with that. But the more random the name, the harder it's going to be to get people to connect with it.
You have to have a message and an identity behind that. And still, I think it's going to be a longer term play. I still think it's going to be harder to build an audience from the beginning, but there may be payoff in that long term. So I'm not saying it's always, the wrong idea. There's situations where it's probably the right idea, but we want to talk about like the easier path, creating niche focused designs that are, having a niche and then creating designs around that. You'll build an audience much faster and you'll make sales much faster, especially at the beginning, because those niche focused designs are attention getters. They will attract the attention because people already identify with things within that niche, but they may not necessarily identify with your brand specifically yet. So when they see a niche focused design that like speaks to something they're interested in, right, they are more likely to buy it and then become familiar with your brand through that process, as opposed to just seeing your logo that they have no idea what it is, or like what they don't know it. It's just like, it's a random logo, right? It's just what does it mean? What, I don't know this brand. Like Gucci, Supreme, obviously those are recognizable brands and they've built their brand through a lot of different methods. But like nobody knows your brand at the beginning. Nobody trusts your brand. Nobody's familiar with it, right? So you can build up sales and build an audience much faster with those attention getting designs, niche focused designs.
100%, man. Like I've made millions in sales with print on demand, and every single winning design, which I've had quite a few of, every single one has been quote based, like slogan based, and it's evoked emotion and relatability for the audience. Like I've never had like just a random word or something go super viral for me. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it's much more challenging because people see it and it means nothing to them. Maybe you have a really cool story behind it, right? I've heard some of those where like, it's like this word and there's this really cool story, but like, who's actually going to take the time to read the story when all they see is a word and they're like, that means nothing, keep scrolling, right? Like you need to catch their attention with something that evokes emotion and relatability. And if it's something super random, that doesn't generally work.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to go that route, like if you're going to try to get them to buy into your brand, like you have to do that before you can sell, really. You have to tell those stories through your marketing, and you have to get people bought into the mission of your brand before they would consider buying something with your logo on it. And the reality is that's a longer term play, and it generally costs more money and time. And so you have to be willing to go on that journey to get people really bought into your brand, if you want to go that route by creating the niche focused designs. Like I said, it's faster, it's quicker, it gets attention easier.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, hitting on mistake number 4. So we're through 3 of these. We got 3 more left. I didn't mention at the beginning, but I've got a little bit of a bonus tip at the end that I'll throw in there. I guess a bonus mistake, you could call it.
Ooh, dangling the carrot. I like it.
Ooh, yeah. So stay tuned for that bonus, number 7. But mistake number 4, hiring a marketing agency for an unproven business or unproven products. Ooh, this one hits me
Same.
because I think on this list, this might be the most costly one because there's potential that you just don't get anything from it. There's a high likelihood that you don't get anything from it. So, what I would say is marketing agencies sound really good in theory. Like it sounds awesome. They have a great sales strategy because it's just like when you're a new brand, especially if you're like you're really trying to get sales, and even maybe if you've failed in that a little bit, you've tried some things and you're like, man, I just can't get these sales. The natural thought is, well, I'll just hire the professional to do it for me, right? I'll hire a marketing agency to do it for me, and even though I might have to spend a lot of money monthly on a retainer and all these things, like they're going to bring me in a lot more sales because they know how to market my stuff. I think the big problem comes in here is that in my experience, and I've had mostly rough experiences with marketing agencies, even with proven products, but the biggest issue is related to not having a proven product that's already sold. Because I think that marketing agencies, there are good ones out there, and marketing agencies, ad agencies, what they're best at is taking something that's already been selling and amplifying it. Like that's really what they're best at.
Yes.
And so I would encourage you, like, if you're listening to this podcast and you're already selling like regularly and you have an audience and like you're really making sales consistently, maybe you're not where you want to be, right? You might be at $5,000, $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, but you're trying to get to the next level. Maybe that's 50,000 a month or 100,000 a month. A marketing agency could help you get there, right? You could hire a marketing agency. You could say, look, this is all the things that I'm doing that are working. Can you amplify these things? And they could tweak strategies and create new campaigns to amplify that and probably have some success with it, right? But when you're at the beginning and you have an unproven product, meaning you haven't sold it yet, you haven't made consistent sales yet, most of the time, marketing agency is just going to take your money and not give you anything in return. You're not going to get sales. You end up just going to be out thousands of dollars. Marketing agencies can cost, all different price ranges, but generally, a common strategy is you're going to have like a monthly retainer fee that might be $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 a month. Plus, you're going to have to pay for the ad spend, which could be however much. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll recommend, hey, this is what we recommend for your ad spend. And so they might recommend that you spend $50, $100 a day, maybe hopefully less, but they might recommend $50, $100 a day. So, okay, now you're at $3,000 more a month plus the $2,000 retainer, and you're at $5K a month, and they've only got you 3 sales or 0 sales maybe. And they'll also say, and some of it's not, they're not trying to be deceptive in some cases, but they might say, hey, we need a full month. You might be on a contract. They might say we need a full 3 months to test things, right? And so, no joke, like I've had people that are like, man, I'm paying $3K, $4K a month for these marketing agencies, and they say I've got to give it 3 months, so I'm going to be out $12K, and they're just not getting me any results. Like, it can be a very rough situation, especially with an unproven product. So that my advice is, when it comes to marketing, like to learn the skill of marketing yourself, get some training, like, learn how to market, because that skill, for me at least, is has been the most valuable skill I've ever learned, right? And I'm not saying I'm like the greatest marketer in the world, but the skills that I have acquired when around writing ad copy or creating images and videos, writing scripts, writing emails, those kind of things to actually market my products to people has been invaluable. Like it's one of the main reasons why I've made any money that I've made. So my advice would be to learn those skills at least from a basic perspective so that you can get that business going. And maybe you consider a marketing agency when you have a proven product that has sold thousands and thousands of dollars and you're ready to like outsource that and explode it, scale it so that you can focus on other things, right? Or maybe you hire a team member. That's another option, is to have a team member that focuses on marketing in the future when your business is ready for that. But I would highly encourage you to start learning some of those marketing skills so that you can run those in the beginning in your business. Thoughts?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. This is
long explanation.
But like warranted, because this is like a huge issue and it's a costly issue for a lot of people. And we actually had a student in Six Figure Founder who spent thousands of dollars on a marketing agency before joining. And I don't think they ever made her a single sale. All I know is that she was out a whole bunch of money. And what's funny is after equipping her with what we teach, she was actually able to start making sales very, very quickly. And she was growing very, very quickly. And it was just a testament to it was a testament to this. Most people think they have a traffic problem, but the truth is they have a product problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you want to make a lot of sales, you need three things. First, you need a product that people actually want to buy, that has mass appeal with your target audience. Second, you need a place for them to buy it, i.e. Shopify. And then third, you need a lot of eyeballs on that product. But here's the thing. If you're missing any of those things, it's going to be a huge struggle. Yeah, if you have a winning design, but nobody's seeing it, it's going to be hard to make sales. If you don't have a winning design and millions of people are seeing it, it's going to be hard to make sales. That's just the way it is. And time and time again, I see people who are like, oh, I'm just not getting enough eyeballs on my products. So I show them how to run ads and how to get their product in front of thousands of people in their target audience. And it's crickets, because they don't have a winning product. They don't have something that has mass appeal with their target audience. Like Facebook ads is very humbling, very humbling.
Oh, for sure.
You can, it's great for exposure and for getting your products in front of a lot of eyeballs very quickly. That's why a lot of people call it the traffic store. You can get in front of thousands of people in 24 hours, and you can get validation, good or bad. Good validation, you make a bunch of sales, it's profitable. Bad validation, you make no sales or it's unprofitable. And it's validation either way, right? And what I tell people is look at the data, trust the data. Intuition is great, but data always wins. Everything I'm talking about, every mistake I'm talking about, I have made. I have been guilty. I'm talking to my past self here. I get it. I resonate with you. I know that feeling very well. But after doing this for around a decade and making millions in sales, it becomes a lot of these things become very, very clear to you. Who can relate to this? I know our audience can't respond right now, but who can relate to this? You drop a design that you absolutely think is going to crush, and then you actually get it in front of a bunch of people and nobody buys it. Yeah. That has happened to me more times than I can count. And the opposites happen too. Tell me if you've dealt with this, Kerry, where you don't think it's going to do very well and it just pops off. Because you don't know what your customer's like. You might think you know, but you don't actually know until you test it. So focus on the ABTs, always be testing, get the products in front of people and look at the data, make data-based decisions, right? Intuition is great, but data always wins.
Yep. And we're going to touch on that a little bit more in an upcoming mistake. But we got one more before we get there. So let's move on to mistake number 5. So mistake number 5. I know you're passionate about this one, Adrian. I know you got some, I know you got some thoughts on this one. Mistake number 5, trying to be on all the social media platforms at once. Whoo. So here's what I'll say. When you're running an apparel business from your laptop and you don't yet have systems or a team in place, you only have so much focus, right? You only have so much focus that you can give to everything, right? Because you are kind of a solopreneur in your business. In theory, it's a great idea to be on all the platforms at once, i.e. Gary V, some of your favorite, social media influencers. I mean, we could probably name 10 or 20 of them, right? They're everywhere. They're all at once. They're on all the platforms. But what you don't see when you're watching those people, those personalities, is that they have teams in place and systems for pushing their content out to all the different platforms and chopping things up and all those kind of things, right? When we're a solo entrepreneur, a much more effective strategy, here's the solution. A much more effective strategy is to get really good at one platform and master it. You'll build a much bigger audience and you'll make more sales because you'll get really good at optimizing for one platform. If your customers are hanging out on Instagram, just get really good at Instagram. Guess what? There's many millions of people on Instagram that you can sell to. Your audience can be plenty big enough there to create a six-figure, multi-six-figure, seven-figure business. There are tons of seven-figure businesses we could probably find that are just like really good on one platform. And in fact, many of the multi seven-figure businesses that we've looked at, even on this podcast, will go and we'll be like, well, what are they doing on TikTok? And we might go to their TikTok and see like, oh, they only got a few thousand followers. They're not really posting over here. There's not a lot going on. They're mainly focused over here on Instagram. Like, or we see, oh man, they've built this huge Facebook group. Like everything's happening in the Facebook group. Or we see maybe they've exploded on TikTok, but maybe they haven't built up some of these other platforms yet. And we're looking at it and we're like, they're doing like $10 million a year. This is crazy, right? So a much more effective strategy, again, when you're starting out, get really good at one platform and master it. Put all your focus into optimizing for one social media platform. As you're growing, you have more money, you have more, you need to focus on other things. You can systematize these things and you can hire teams. You can also use software technology and automation to get your content on more platforms and get in front of more people. But to keep it simple at the beginning and to optimize your time and get the most bang for your buck, focus on one platform and get really good at it. Hit me.
Boom. 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 With diluted focus, you get diluted results.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it is with social media. And most of these big creators and these big brands, they built their reputation on one primary platform. One brand that immediately comes to mind is Pure Vita bracelets. This brand, huge brand, right? However, they built their reputation off the back of Instagram. Yes, now they have a TikTok presence and they probably have a presence on Snapchat and other channels, but they've got a massive team. They've got a headquarters in La Jolla, California. You know what I mean? Like they've got a whole team. They've got dedicated creators. They've got all these like collaborators. They're working with content creators. They've got in-house content creators. Like they're so far ahead. And, you know, even me, like I have a presence on multiple platforms. However, that's because I have a team. Like I actually commit a lot of my time to content creation. This podcast is a form of content creation. Instagram, content creation. TikTok, content creation. YouTube, content creation. Because I have a team. I have a team helping me and I'm able to hand off a lot of the back end stuff to them so that I can focus on the content creation side of things. However, if I was starting a t-shirt or apparel business today, I would be like, I'm going to choose one primary platform to acquire my customers. Probably would be Instagram. I'm going to choose one secondary platform to retain my customers. It would definitely be email marketing. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to commit to mastery of just those two. I'm going all in on just those two because it's way more powerful to have a big presence on one social media platform versus having a tiny presence scattered a bunch across a couple, right? And I would not even think about scaling out to other social media platforms until I had a team or decided to make a pivot, but I probably wouldn't do that. I would be really committed to the long term for the one platform that I selected.
That's so good. So good. I know I feel like you're one of the best people that just like to teach on that subject.
Thank you.
You always say it in a really good way that's easy to understand, you know, and you always make really good points on that.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our final mistake, minus the bonus mistake or tip. We got one bonus after this. So this goes right along with mistake number 4. So let's recap these real quick, and then we'll jump into the final mistake, mistake number 6. Mistake number 1, opening a general store or having many niches in one store. Mistake number 2, trying to build a pro level store instead of launching with a minimum viable product. Mistake number 3, just slapping your logo on all your t-shirts or your products as your primary design instead of going niche focused. Mistake number 4. Did I say 4 on the last one? Mistake number 4.
I think you said 3.
Okay. Mistake number 4, hiring a marketing agency for unproven business or products. Mistake number 5, trying to be on all the social media platforms at once when you're starting out. And that brings us to our final mistake, mistake number 6. And we got a bonus mistake, burning money on paid ads with no strategy or no training, or just you don't know what you're doing. This goes right along with mistake number 4. We talked about hiring a marketing agency, so on and so forth. A better solution would be learning yourself. But now we're saying in mistake number 6, even if you learn, even if you're doing it yourself, like we see a lot of people burning a lot of money on paid ads because they really don't have the right strategy, or they don't have a proven training. Like they just don't know what the right way to do ads is and how to approach it so that you don't burn a ton of money and that you get the results that you want and you gather the data you want. I have a lot of thoughts on this. One of the things I would say to start off on this is specifically what I'm most familiar with is Facebook and Instagram ads. Facebook and Instagram make it so easy to just push a button and start spending money on ads. Everywhere you go inside Facebook, there's a button that's like, do you want to boost this post? Do you want to make this an ad? Do you want to, and it's like, you can go to the ad center, but you can also go to the ads manager. And it's like, over the years, there's just been all these different things. And, I get it, right? From a business perspective, they want to make it easy for us to run an ad. But the reality is there are specific things that you need to know to make your ad more effective and to spend less money. But I think that the Meta and everything has they've got a lot of people where we're in this mindset of if I just run a Facebook ad, I'll have success. It'll just make sales, especially if you're coming from the non-online world. You always hear about these Facebook ads, and it's just so you start this apparel business and you're like, oh, I gotta run Facebook and Instagram ads. This is the way, right? And so what we see a lot is we see students start a bunch of ads and they kind of go all in on ads, and then they end up burning a ton of money without any results. And what you should really do, what you need is, first of all, I would highly encourage getting some specific training on not only how to run paid ads, but how to run paid ads for your specific type of products. Let me explain that, right? If you have a plumbing business and you go get training on how to run ads for plumbing, and then you start a e-commerce business, how to get leads for plumbing, you're not going to know how to run effective ads for an e-commerce business if you've only been running ads to get leads for your plumbing business, right? You need to get specific training. You might know how to run an ad, but it's very different trying to sell a t-shirt as opposed to get a lead for somebody that needs a plumber, or to sell, name something, right? To sell a software. If you have a software that you're trying to get subscribers for, it's much different strategy to try to get subscribers for a software than it is to sell a t-shirt. And so you not only need training, but you need specific training and strategy on how to effectively run test ads at low budgets and identify what can scale, but specifically for what you're selling. In this case, t-shirts, apparel, print on demand. There are specific strategies, buttons you need to click, campaign setups, those kind of different things, types of images, types of videos that work better for this kind of model that don't necessarily work in other types of businesses, right? So you need that training, you need that strategy. And there is a way that you can do it where you can test your ads at low budgets, and you can look at the data and you can scale those ads and make new campaigns based off of what the data is telling you, right? And that's the preferred way. Yes, you're going to spend money on paid ads when you just start out, and if you decide to go that route, if you decide to run paid ads, you're going to spend money that you're probably going to lose. That doesn't mean you need to spend thousands of dollars, right? You can test ads at $10 a day for 3 days, and you can get meaningful data from that allows you to then create better ads that are going to get more results and hopefully bring you back some profits. So test ads at low budgets, read the data, and then make moves from there based off what the data is telling you. Am I making any sense,
Boom.
Adrian? I'm kind of going all
Yeah,
over the
no.
place, but
I really think that was really well said.
good.
I mean, it comes down to this. Success is a result of strategy, not luck or special ability. Those people working at marketing agencies, people like you and me who have been able to make millions by running paid ads, other people who have made millions from running paid ads, we are nothing special. Well, okay, I can only speak for myself. I'm nothing special. And like, I'm not a guru. I'm not a marketing genius. Those people are not marketing geniuses. They just have a strategy that works. And I mean, keep in mind, like even the best in the world at marketing, it's going to be very challenging for them to market a crappy product. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people's products are crappy when they start. I'm just keeping it real here. My products were crappy. Kerry, yours probably were terrible. Oh, yeah. A lot of brands I see, their products are terrible, and it's not surprising to me that they're not making sales because the products because they're new, right? They're making all the beginner mistakes that I made and that you made and that everybody else makes. Like, honor the journey. It's part of the journey, right? You're gonna learn. The more you test, the more designs that you put out, the better you're naturally going to get, because practice makes progress. And as you progress, you get better. And most people, this is why we say that most people, your first design probably isn't going to be your winner, your 5th, your 10th, your 15th, your 20th. They might not be your winners. And no matter how many ads you throw at them, they might not be profitable for you. That's nothing personal. Like, take the emotion out of it and just look at the data. The data is telling you, it's giving you the validation. Maybe you want it, maybe you don't, but it's giving you validation that it's resonating with people or that it's not. And that's good data, because if it's not resonating with people, we can stop wasting our money on ads that aren't converting, and we can go back to the bicycle shop and start pumping out more designs and learn from those mistakes, right? So yeah, I'm not trying to like, I hope that didn't come across as negative. Like, everything I'm saying, I have to keep reiterating this, but everything I'm saying is coming from my own experience. Like, I've made all these mistakes, and I've seen so many others make these mistakes too. And it kills me when someone says, I spent $200 on an ad and never made a single sale. It hurts. Like, I hurt for them. I don't want that for anybody. And so, if the expectation is set that, like, when you first start out, expect things not to be perfect. Expect that you don't have a winning design, but put out more and look for validation. There are free ways, there are low-cost ways, and there are paid ways to get validation. Pick your poison, right? Choose your adventure. If you want the quickest validation, it's going to be meta ads, because you can get in front of thousands of people in 24 hours, and you'll really quickly know if you're onto something or not. But like, know when to cut it, right? And I think a lot of people, they hang on to hope because they're like, oh, I'm getting so much likes and comments and shares, but like no sales. I'm like, okay, that means that it's just not resonating enough with people on a level that encourages them, that motivates them to pull out their credit card, to throw it down and to purchase that product. And with even small budgets, you can know very quickly if this is something that's worth continue to spend your money on, or if it's not, which in most cases, most aren't going to be winners. Most of your designs will not be winners. It'll be like maybe 1 to 5%. You know what I mean? Those ones, when you see that, the outlier data, that validation, then that's going to be the one that you can go big on, right? But no, just like setting like very real expectations. You hear a lot of stuff like online from people being like, oh, all you have to do is throw up products and then people just come to you and you magically make all these sales. No, you don't. I'm sorry. That's not how it works. And like I think we need to be really real with people about the expectations, because there are a lot of people that truly believe that. And I thought it was a lot easier too when I first started out, right? I was like, oh, I'm just going to throw out products that I think are cool. I'm going to make up designs. I'm going to make up words. I'm going to make up slogans. And they flopped. And the ones that did well, like those were actually validated designs. I always took inspiration from other designs that were winning right now. I reverse engineered that success, and I found ways to use that as inspiration to create designs that were emotion evoking and relatable to my target audience. And those always were the ones in my experience that performed the best. That was a lot.
Yeah, no, we're passionate about it, but you hit the nail on the head. Is like a huge tip would just be, don't put ads behind something that you don't have any, like get as much validation as you can for the design or the product before you put ads behind it, right? Generally, one of the easiest ways is through social media, through free social media, right? Putting it out on your Instagram account, seeing like, whatever account, could be anything, but seeing what gets the most engagement, doing polls, sending out to your email list. But another way, if you don't have any of that, if you can't get any of that, is like you said, you should be creating designs that draw inspiration from other successful designs, right? And if you do that, you're going to have a higher likelihood of success, because a design that is kind of similar has already had success. Now, I'm not encouraging to copy designs within your niche. A lot of times the inspiration comes from designs outside of your niche, right? That have a similar layout or a similar font style or a similar color scheme, or maybe a slogan that you could repurpose to your own niche and change the words around, right? And put some different words in there, but it has a much higher likelihood of success because there's already similar things out in the market that have had success. So get as much validation for the design or the product before you put ads behind it. And then when you go to put ads, make sure that you're following a proven system for doing it, right? We don't recommend running engagement ads, meaning running ads to get likes and comments and shares. We recommend running ads to get purchases, which literally in Meta, you can select, I want purchases, and it will try to find you people that will buy, not just like and engage, right? That's a big thing you need to know so that you don't burn money just getting a bunch of likes, right? Because it doesn't mean anything unless you get sales. Anyways, I could go get passionate, but
man, dude, we're getting fired up about this topic. Can I just say one more thing? I just want to say one more thing, because you're firing me up, man. I think we're like feeding off each other here. But one thing I want to say is, this does get simpler as you grow, because as you build your social media following, your audience, as you build your email list, all these are free and low cost tools that you can use to get quick validation on your products. So like Kerry said, like you don't need a big audience to make a ton of sales, but you do still need to get in front of a lot of people. So if you have a tiny audience, if you have like 5 followers on Instagram and you think you have a winning design, or you've found some sort of like what seems like validation, like run a small budget test to see if there's any like truth to that validation, and you'll get in front of a lot of people very quickly. But what's nice is that when you do take the time to build your audience organically on a channel like Instagram, and build your email list organically through purchasers and through people that choose to subscribe when they visit your website or your Instagram shops, like those are all prospects. Those are all in theory, they're all your target audience. They should be your target audience. And you don't even need a lot of them to get validation, right? Like even if you had 100 email subscribers, let's say that you were dropping new arrivals every single week to your 100 subscribers, and it was like 0 sales, 0 sales, 0 sales, 0 sales. Then all of a sudden you make 3 sales of one design. Boom. That's like more than enough validation for me to be like, okay, there's some magic here. I put it in front of a small sample size of my target audience, and it was a 3% take rate. I'm taking that over to Meta Ads immediately, and I'm going to run a small budget ad to see if I can replicate that success on a bigger level, and then just work it up from there as long as it's profitable.
Yeah, it's all so good. I'm going to keep the bonus tip short here. You call it a bonus mistake, a bonus tip, but what I really want to just mention here on this bonus part is what we've been talking about throughout this entire episode. Like there's a common theme throughout this episode, and it is the fact that if you do invest in yourself and you go get some training and you actually learn from somebody who is where you want to go, you're going to be able to avoid a lot of these mistakes, right? And that's part of the reason we're here. I mean, that's the big reason why we're here is we have this podcast because we want to help you avoid some of these mistakes that we see commonly made. We want to offer our advice and our tips and strategy based on what we've learned over the years. And so I guess the mistake is that we see a lot of people try to do it on their own because they won't invest in themselves, right? And another thing that I see is they won't invest in training. Another thing that I see is people trying to follow like all these different people that all have different strategies and different systems. I'm guilty of this. Part of my story that I tell, from time to time in different presentations is, early on, before I kind of started investing into training, masterminds, coaches, and different things, this is what I was trying to do, right? I was on YouTube looking up how to run a Facebook ad. And it's like the top one is I'm learning how to run ads for plumbers. As I mentioned earlier, I'm learning how to run ads for churches. I'm learning how to run ads for this, for that, for this. Like I was trying to piece all of it together to try to figure out how to make this work. Didn't know what I was doing, right? It wasn't until for me, I invested in a online course. I spent a few $1,000s. It's a guy that I trusted that I was like, oh man, this guy is doing what I want to do, has the success that I want to do. I invested in that course and I started just doing exactly what that person said. And that's when my success started to take off. So what I would say is, look, I'm not telling you we both have programs, myself and Adrian. I'm not telling you need to necessarily go buy our programs. Like you might be listening to this episode, you might be like, these guys don't really resonate with me. That's okay. But I do encourage you to find somebody that does resonate with you, that you trust, that you believe what they're saying, that they're giving you advice that you feel like is valuable, and go buy their stuff, go buy their book, go buy their course, go sign up for a VIP day with them or get some coaching from them, sign up for their programs, because it's going to shorten your timeline to success. And it's going to give you the strategy and that you need when it comes to things like ads, email, mock-ups, designs, all the different things, right? It's going to lessen your time to get to the success, and it's going to help you avoid many mistakes that they've likely made upon the way on their journey, that they can help you avoid those mistakes, which again is going to help you get to where you want to go faster. So, I mean, yeah. I could really harp on this forever, but we both, I think, really believe in investing in yourself with coaching, masterminds, courses, books, any kind of training to learn the skills that you specifically need to run the business that you want to run successfully.
100%, man. The best investment you'll ever make is in yourself. And, like I consider myself a student of the game because I believe if you're not growing, you're dying. That's just my own personal philosophy. And I am always in multiple paid coaching programs to learn from people better than me. Whatever I want to learn, the first thing I do is like, okay, who's doing this well? What do they have to help me? What do they have to support me? And I totally agree with you. Like, yeah, we both have programs, but if we're not, like, I know I'm not for everyone, and that's okay. Yeah. I'm totally okay with that. Kerry probably knows the same thing. That's Absolutely. Totally okay. Find the person that you resonate most with. And I totally agree. Like, stick to their strategy. This whole Frankenstein strategy approach where you're patching together things from Google, YouTube, ChatGPT, like, it's very time intensive and it can be very costly. And I have a similar experience to you, Kerry, where my first business, I started with two friends. None of us knew what we were doing. So we started 3 different businesses, all print on demand businesses, all like total flops. And so we decided, okay, we don't know what we're doing. We need clarity here. So after wasting a bunch of money and a bunch of time and getting no results, we all decided to invest in this course. Again, cost a couple $1,000s. One of the best investments I've ever made. That course paid itself off multiple times over because I just followed the proven strategy. And all of us were able to build 6-figure brands within 1 year because we just followed the proven strategy. The person who taught it, he was nothing special. He was a great person. We liked, and trusted him. And we followed the strategy step by step. We were very coachable. We were like, oh yeah, this person's been where we want to go. Let's try this strategy out. We worked hard. All of us worked very hard, and we were able to get the results that we wanted within the year. But like, it's not because we were anything special, and it's not because he was anything special. It's because everyone was following a very crystal clear, proven strategy. And we stopped wasting our time like trying to piecemeal everything from all these different platforms, hearing all these different messages from all these different people, spending thousands of dollars and getting no results. Like, before you go waste that money, go find someone who's been where you want to go and invest that money. And like, consider an investment, and two, consider this a long-term investment. Like, don't think you're going to get results overnight. It rarely happens. And again, got to keep it real here, because there's too many people out there making everyone believe that within 24 hours you can make $10,000. That almost never happens. And it's important that people are out here setting clear expectations. Like you should always be thinking long-term in entrepreneurship. What business do you know of that everyone is just an overnight success? I don't know of any. I don't know of any legit businesses where people are an overnight success. And it sounds cool. It sounds really cool when you hear it on Instagram and you hear it on TikTok and stuff like that. But the thing is, it sets unrealistic expectations for people. And when they don't make $10,000 in their first 24 hours, they're discouraged because they actually believe that was possible. Yeah. So I do think it's important to like lay it out there and say, this is possible for you, our listeners, but like, you have to like invest in yourself and commit to the long term. Like there's a really good quote actually that I posted on Instagram today, and it was from one of my favorite books of all time, which I recommend to every single entrepreneur. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I absolutely love this book. And I just want to read you verbatim what this quote says, because I think this needs to be like posted everywhere for especially new entrepreneurs. Actually, two of the quotes I want to read from there. First is the one from James Clear. Success is a result of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. Huge, huge. I wish I read that before I even considered entrepreneurship, because I was a victim of falling prey to thinking that you're going to get rich really, really quick. Right. Mm-hmm. And then secondly is every transformation needs courage to begin and patience to see it through. Those are two very relatable quotes that I think every entrepreneur needs to hear, especially the new ones.
You're the quote master. I love it. Hey, by the way, like if a guru is promising you gazillions of sales and like with no work and no time, like it's probably, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Please don't buy their course. Like newsflash, if it sounds too good to be true, like don't buy their course. Like it's probably too good to be true. And the other tip that I would give, and then we'll wrap this up, is if you buy a course or you buy any kind of program or whatever, you want to learn from somebody, don't go into that program with the mindset of how can this person make me millions of dollars? Go into it with the mindset of how am I going to implement this so that I can make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars? What am I going to do with this information? The guru guy, the coach, they're not going to make you any money. You have to implement it to make the money. And so just don't go in thinking like they're going to give me this one secret and it's going to make me all these millions of dollars. Like you're going to have to take the information, put in the work, but as we mentioned, it's going to shorten your timeline to success. It's going to help you avoid some of the mistakes, some of the pitfalls along the way, which is going to help you get to your goals quicker. And hopefully those goals are going to be bigger than you even thought if you'll implement. So let's wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up there. Good episode. Lots of good conversation. I enjoyed it. Adrian, final thoughts?
I just wanted like really, really quick final thought, like going on what you just said, like think of I hate the term guru, like, you know what I mean? I never want to be called a guru, but the coach, the mentor, think of them as a guide, and you have to be the hero of your own journey. This is from Donald Miller's book, Building a Story Brand. And it's so, so powerful. Like you have to be the hero of your own journey. The guide can give you all the tools to set you up for success, but you are the secret sauce. Mm-hmm. You're the secret sauce. So it's on you to be the hero. Like you need to be your own hero. Just, think of that guide as someone who's giving you the tools and the proven strategy. And now it's time for you to get to work and to take that and run with it and be the hero of your own journey.
I love it. Great episode. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us an honest review on whichever platform you're listening from. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, and we'll talk very soon.